Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're looking at a case that really, well, it shook things up legally. Imagine a situation so terrible, so impactful that it pushed the very limits of justice and, executive power. We're diving into the Bilkis Bano case. It's a story of just unimaginable suffering, but it led to a Supreme Court decision sending 11 men back to prison. And this ruling, it fundamentally reshaped how we understand legal remission. This deep dive will get into not just the facts, but why this ruling changes who really holds the keys to early release in India.
Exactly. It's a critical case. We'll explore the painful history behind it all, the really complex legal questions India's highest court had to tackle, and of course the profound implications of their final decision for victims' rights and, well, the whole justice system. It's a powerful lesson in accountability, really.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this a bit. The case itself, formally, it's Bilkis Yaqub Rasul versus the Union of India. Landmark stuff from 2022 and 2023. At its heart, it's about that very controversial issue, the remission given to 11 convicts. These men were involved in the horrific 2002 Bilkis Bano gang rape and mass murder during the Gujarat riots. It's just a truly harrowing story, isn't it?
It is absolutely devastating. What's crucial to grasp about the background is just how horrific these events were. Back in 2002, during the riots, and Bilkis Bano, she was 21 at the time, pregnant. She was gang raped, and 14 members of her family, including her little 3-year-old daughter, were brutally murdered. A CBI court back in 2008 convicted 11 men for these crimes, sentencing them all to life imprisonment.
Right. And then fast forward 2 decades to 2022. And this is where it took that unexpected, highly controversial turn. These 11 convicts, they were released by the Gujarat government. Under its remission policy, the release sparked widespread condemnation, naturally. And it really makes you ask, what were the precise legal grounds? How did the Gujarat government justify that decision?
That's exactly where the Supreme Court had to step in. See, the Gujarat government claimed they were acting on a Supreme Court directive, one that one of the convicts had managed to obtain. But this claim immediately raised huge legal questions for the Supreme Court's bench, Justices B.V. Nagaratna and Ujjal Puyan. They basically had to figure out, did the Gujarat government even have the power, the authority to grant this remission? Was the whole process followed correctly, legally sound? And, should remission for crimes, this heinous, especially linked to communal violence, face much stricter judicial scrutiny? That was the crux of the challenge.
Justice Nagaratna's focus on the rule of law, it felt really potent, almost like the court drawing a line in the sand saying, this far, no further. But I wonder, in these really high-profile cases, is there sometimes a tension between sticking strictly to legal principles and maybe other things like, I don't know, the supposed rehabilitation of convicts? How did the court handle that?
That's a really critical point. And the court's position, unequivocal. They said the rule of law simply cannot be compromised for administrative convenience or perceived compassion in cases this severe. The bench found, crucially, that the Gujarat government just lacked the jurisdiction. They didn't have the authority to grant remission because the trial itself. It actually happened in Maharashtra, not Gujarat. This jurisdictional error was absolutely central to their final ruling.
So the court was explicit. They called out the Gujarat government for acting beyond its powers.
Precisely, yes. The court held those remission orders were arbitrary, totally illegal, and issued in what they termed quite powerfully a usurpation of jurisdiction. Essentially, acting without legal authority, stepping into a domain that just wasn't theirs to control. And the consequences were immediate, very stark. All 11 convicts were ordered to surrender within 2 weeks, back to prison.
So what does this all mean for you, listening in, and for the wider legal landscape?
Well, this judgment sent a very clear signal. The remission for all 11 convicts was completely quashed. They were ordered back to prison to serve out their life sentences. It's a really strong affirmation of victims' rights and of due process in these remission cases.
And crucially, this ruling redefined a fundamental piece of India's legal system. It clarified Section 432 of the Criminal Procedure Code, the CRPC. This section, well, it often caused confusion about jurisdiction for remission. The court stated definitively the appropriate government isn't where the crime occurred or where the convict happens to be jailed. It's specifically the state where the trial took place. That provides vital clarity, closing a pretty significant loophole.
Yeah. This deep dive into the Bilkis Bano case, it really highlights how the judiciary can act as such a critical safeguard, reinforcing those core principles of justice and protect victims' rights, especially when they're under serious challenge. Absolutely. And it leaves us with a significant question for you to think about. How do landmark rulings like this one shape not just specific laws, but also our broader collective understanding of accountability, of judicial oversight, and ultimately the unwavering need for justice in society, something to consider until our next deep dive.